guys, and welcome to another one of my Listopias for early 2014, and this one is my top most anticipated sequels of 2014. So I only have a total of 6 sequels that I'm really anticipating, and I'm going to be talking about them in order of publication date because honestly I can't decide which ones are the ones that I want the most and which are the ones that I want the least out of my most list, so it's just a lot of it's a big hassle. So just publication date so that you guys can know when they're coming out in that order. The fourth is none other than Ignite Me by Tahira Mafi. If you've been watching my videos or any booktuber YA videos, then shame on you for not picking up the Unravel Shadow Me series, because that series or trilogy is pure amazingness. Every single book is better than the previous one. And the novellas bring so much insight into the whole world, such as Destroy Me for Warner, and then Fracture Me for Adam. You can finally see the finish line, February 4. Don't disappoint me, Tahira Mafi. That is all I can say. I'm obviously Team Warner. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Destroy Me happened and I'm like, oh, Warner, where have you been? The next book I'm anticipating comes out on February 11th, and it is Split Second by Casey West, the second and last book in this fantastic duology. The first book, Pivot Point, was such a pleasant surprise. I had it as a digital galley, an e-arc, whatever you want to call it. I read it and I was kind of wary because I'm not a big fan of time travel, but this kind of was like that, but it had a big slice of contemporary, which is what I like. And I ended up really enjoying it, and then at the first chance I got, I went out and bought myself my own copy. And basically this series or book is about a girl who's a divergent. She can look into the future of any decision that she makes. So if she's in a dilemma and she doesn't know whether to pick the first or second choices, she can look into the future of both choices and see where she'll be if she chooses this or that. And here it talks about when her parents, I think they split up and her mom stays in the paranormal world where people like her have different powers and such. So she looks into that, and the story is a parallel between the life that she would have if she chose to stay with her mom or with her dad, and they run quite nicely in parallel together, and it was a very addicting read, and I was really happy with the whole book, especially the ending just makes me want to pick up Split Second immediately. So definitely looking out for that one, and I'm just grateful that it's only a duology. We jump 4 months later to June 3rd, and this is the release of the third and final book in the Grisha trilogy. I've read Shadow and Bone as well as Siege and Storm. Last week I actually marathoned them and they were freaking amazing. And the last book is Rise and Ruin. There's no cover, there's only title. I'm not sure about the synopsis. I haven't really looked and read the synopsis. I just don't want it even more than I already do. So Shadow and Bone is high fantasy, and I have not read barely any high fantasy last year, so I took it upon myself to try to read more high fantasy this year, and this was an epic rec from Mel. I fell in love with this book. It was just amazing, and I feel like that's what I was missing in my reading. And it is high fantasy, just the adventures, the different worlds that aren't supposed to be supposedly dystopian, but these actually have different worlds. And I just love that about Shadow and Bone. I also really enjoyed Siege and Storm. I have to say that the love line, this is the first time that ever happens to me, and it is that I do not mind who the main protagonist ends with. Whether it's Darkling, Mal, or Stormhaunt. I don't mind. I love all 3 of them. Maybe a little bit less for the Darkling, but I love all 3 of them. And it's not only the romance is just a tiny part of this whole trilogy. It's just everything else, the magic, the powers, the adventure, the way the plots are written. Everything is written in such an intricate and detailed and amazing way. I just really applaud Lee Bardugo for writing such a fantastic trilogy, and I feel that more people should read this trilogy, especially since the third book is coming out in around 5 months, so you guys can marathon these 2 like I did. June 10 is the release of the final book in the Mara Dyer trilogy, The Retribution of Mara Dyer. This book was pushed back from last November of 2013 till June. It's really tough for me to wait all this time because the ending was really bad, and This is one of my all-time favorite trilogies. I love them so very much. So the first book is The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. Honestly, the covers were what attracted me to this whole series initially, and then when I read this one, I was kind of okay with it, especially at the beginning. But then I found myself sitting for hours and hours and hours trying to finish this book, and I did. And while I did not give it 5 stars, I think I ended up giving it 4.5, which was pretty good. But it wasn't one of my all-time favorite trilogies, but I feel like with time, the book sort of sticks with you and it never leaves you, and then you think about it more and more and more, and then it becomes a favorite somehow. The second book, The Evolution of Mara Dyer, was even better than The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. This is what actually solidified it as being one of my all-time favorite series, even though the third book hasn't even come out yet. I have faith in Michelle Hodkin, and I'm just a huge fan of just her world, the way it's so different from other books. Honestly, if you guys don't like paranormal, I would still suggest this. It's completely different from other books. The way she writes it, the world, the characters, their behavior, the relationship with other people, it's just so fascinating and just different. And you're always a tiny bit uncomfortable while reading these books. And I feel like this is what makes these books so special. So definitely pick this trilogy up, especially just to meet Noah Shaw, because I love Noah Shaw. The fifth book I'm anticipating is Sister's Fate by Jessica Spotswood, coming out in August of 2014, so 7 months from now. Sister's Fate is the third and final book in the Cahill Witch Chronicles. This series or trilogy is actually set in historical times. I think the 1800s, I'm not entirely sure, and it's about magic. So I love books with actual magic, like true authentic magic, and this is one of them. Born Wicked was really interesting. It was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it, but I only gave it 4 stars. Still, 4 stars is amazing. But then I read the second book, Starcursed. And obviously you can see cover change, how much I hate that. And I loved Starcursed. It was so good. I couldn't put it down. I think I read it in one of the Bad of Bookathon or something like that. One of the bookathons, I think it was 7.0. So it was almost a year ago, and I couldn't put it down. I read it obviously in a single day, and at the end, I was bawling so much. It was embarrassing. So I hear that Sister's Fate, the arcs are already out. Jessica Spotswood told me on Twitter, so I need to hunt one down because I don't think I can wait till August to read this final book. I can't. Would you? I don't think you would. The last book is coming out in November 13th, which is so far away, and I'm just dying a little bit inside because first of all, it's so far away. Second of all, there's no cover, there's no title, there's no synopsis. So we're left hanging. And it is the third book in the Hemlock trilogy by Kathleen Peacock, which is coming November 13th, as I mentioned. Hemlock is the first book, and it is a paranormal book centered around werewolves, but I have to let you know that this is completely different from typical paranormal novels. Every single person that read this, that I recommended to that read this, agrees with me. This is more, the werewolf or the paranormal aspect is more as a sickness. So if you have Lupin syndrome, then you can turn into a werewolf, and they kind of quarantine you into these rehabilitation centers where you can never come out, I guess. And this is also a murder mystery. The main protagonist, her best friend gets murdered by a werewolf, and she, along with her best friend's boyfriend Jason, as well as their fourth friend Kyle, have been best friends forever, but Mac is trying to find out who her friend's killer is. But on top of that, there's some secrecy going on with Kyle, and Jason is just going down the drain. He's turning into this really miserable person, and it's just a ton of fun. This book is a lot of fun. It's so interesting, and I personally couldn't put the book down. On top of just the 4 friends, there's a lot of character development in all the characters, including secondary characters such as Mac's cousin, who Mac lives with, as well as some other friends from their school. I actually liked every single one of them, and I really, really, really loved Hemlock. I also reread this in the Bad of Book, I think in the Booktubeathon actually, in the first Booktubeathon. And I really loved it. I've read this book so many times. It's just amazing. It never gets old. And I will always be recommending this book to people. all the time. Unfortunately, I don't have Thornhill because I have given it to a friend who actually really loved Hemlock, so I've recommended this book I think to around five people who actually read it, and every single one loved the book. So honestly, just pick it up. It's only like $5 on Book Outlet, and it's just amazing. So I honestly haven't heard any people discussing this book on the booktubing channel other than Jillian from Bookish and Nerdy, and I actually recommended the book to her, and she was one of the 5 that I was telling you about. So honestly, just please pick this book up. Do I have to beg you? Pick it up. So yes, no cover, no title, no synopsis, still dying to read it because Kathleen Peacock is awesome and I love her books. These are my top 6 sequels that I'm anticipating in 2014. I'm pretty sure they're going to pile up even more because I'm planning on doing some marathoning of the first 2 books in a couple of trilogies, including the Darkest Mind trilogy as well as Angel Fall, etc. So yes, a lot coming up. I just need to make the time to read them and the money because I don't own any of those books. Let me know what sequels you guys are anticipating, and I specifically made it sequels, not companion novels, so because I don't want to mix it up, I'm trying to do a lot of different Listopias. So yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope I compelled you guys to put some of these books on your TBR. I hope so, and have a nice day. Bye!